All right, let's welcome in our guests who will help us track the markets and the stocks that they like. We have with us Avinnash Gorakssakar, Sharmila Joshi, and we have Vishal Malkan also joining us. I think we also have Samit Chavan with us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Sharmila, let's start with you. It seems like 2016 was a nothing year for the markets. We're closing at the same levels where we started this year. Now, what do long-term investors do? Everybody says in the long term you make money. Do you have some picks where you think long term you will genuinely make money?
Well, I think that even if at an index level what you're saying is true, what we would find is that even in spite of the kind of correction that we've seen in the last month, there would be individual stocks that have done well. And honestly, I think if you look at not just the last year, but the last year, 2-3 years, you would find that the market has become much more stock specific than really if you were to just look at it at an index level, then the returns have really not been that great. So I think that's the big advice, that you should try and focus on stocks and try and focus on stocks where you think you're comfortable with valuations rather than getting carried away by momentum. For instance, if you were to look, say, at an NBFC stock, I think for the longest time we've been speaking of Bharat Financial, Manappuram, stocks like that. If you bought them at in the last leg of the rally, then you would be looking at cuts of 20 or 30%. But if you would invested in the story early enough, you would still be making some amount of money, and perhaps which is why you're seeing the maximum pressure in such stocks where the churn is happening, where people are actually get the volumes and are able to sell these stocks, and probably they're sitting on some amount of profit. So yes, I think there are stocks that can be bought. I think one of the stocks that I would recommend is LIC Housing Finance. I think that you will see business getting back to normal for housing finance companies a lot faster than some of the other sectors. Again, I think for LIC Housing Finance, results have been fairly good. We've seen it correct in this last month. So I think you can try and buy the stock on dips, and you should probably see the stock go back to 600 kind of levels. Another stock that I would recommend would be Emami. I think within the FMCG space, this is a stock that will again, to my mind, sort of show recovery in top line faster than some of the other. The point being that earlier you would recommend some of the white goods and consumption, the high ticket consumption items. Now you could possibly see the focus coming back to slightly smaller value FMCG plays, and within that, I think this quarter, in any case, for Emami products is a good quarter. So you could see Emami recover from these levels, and my target for 12 to 18 months would be closer to 1,200 rupees.
All right, Emami and LIC Housing Finance. Avinnash, what are your top picks?
Nisha, I think we have two medium to long term calls. The first is on RBL Bank. We believe that this has been a recent listing, and despite the fact that the stock has seen some amount of selling pressure in the last few weeks, our sense is that it's a well-established bank, pan-India presence, and one of the new banks. So clearly, with good amount of asset quality control plus a very strong loan book growth of almost 20-25%, we feel that investors should use these declines to build it in their core portfolio. We have a target price of 393. And the second stock is a government PSU, that is NBCC. We believe that not only is the order book very strong, but the kind of traction we are going to see on initiatives like the smart city, real estate development, especially in colonies in Delhi. Our sense is that definitely NBCC stands on a very strong wicket. The company has also announced a board meet sometime in the first week of Jan 2017. So I think clearly from a longer term perspective, there's a lot of value to be made. We have a target price of 280.
All right, NBCC is a pick. What about you, Vishal? Where have you seen a good increase in open interest? What are your top picks?
I will look at a couple of stocks, and one of them would be the large cap, would be L&T, which is showing good bottoming formation on daily as well as weekly charts in the last few weeks, and bombing a good support around 1300. There are bullish divergences on momentum indicators. So I would go long on L&T with a stop of 1310 for targets of 1390 and 1420 in the next few days. And the second one would be Ashok Leyland, which is showing good consolidation pattern in the last 1 month, forming good accumulation pattern with volumes at an important support. So I'll go long on Ashok Leyland with a stop of 74 for targets of 85 and 88 in the next few trading sessions.
Right. Avinnash, you also like HCL Tech?
Yeah, I think, from the frontline IT companies, we believe that the kind of headwinds we are getting from the US and the kind of valuation these stocks are trading, I think the risk reward ratio is pretty decent. Our sense is that, the downside now looks pretty well capped, and HCL Tech has already given a dollar guidance of 12-13%, margin guidance of 19-21%. Our sense is that acquisitions like Geometric and Butler Aerospace should actually start contributing significantly in FY18. It trades at around 10 times FY18, which looks pretty inexpensive. And I think looking at the earnings visibility, a target price of 900 looks possible. So I think I would presume that, somebody who wants to have a safe but a steady return portfolio should also include this IT stock in their portfolio.
Right. And Sameet, what are your top picks?
Yeah, despite Nifty has given a strong correction, we would like to stay long in such kind of stock which are clearly showing strength since last few days. First one would be BEML, which had given a strong breakout, price volume breakout from its near-term hurdle of 920, 925 last week. It's been holding its strong support since then. Yesterday we saw a good corrective move, but we would interpret this as a very good buying opportunity. We would maintain our target of 1024 for BEML. Stop loss would be around 927. Our other buy call would be on Exide Industries, which has been consolidating since last 3 weeks. And if we look at the daily chart now, it seems that the stock is forming a strong base around 170. Yesterday we saw good traction in last couple of hours of trade with rising volumes. Thus, we would expect a breakout beyond its triangular pattern, which is the higher end is around 176, 177. So we would anticipate for a target of 182. Stop loss would be around 169. And our third buy call would be on KPIT Tech. We have been maintaining our optimistic stance on this stock since last 2 weeks. However, this stock has been consolidating in a narrow range. 134, 133 seems to be a very strong support, and going ahead, we expect this stock to move towards 144, which would be our near-term target, and stop loss can be fixed at 132.
Sharmila, earlier in the, when you started the answer, you mentioned about the correction in Bharat Financial. What do you think market is trying to price in?
Very honestly, I think that in terms of pricing in, I don't think it is any fundamental big ticket negative that now remains to be priced in. I think it's what I was referring to in the sense that these are the stocks where you would possibly be sitting on some amount of gains in spite of the correction that you've seen. And in a market like this where you're trying to book some amount of profit and you're trying to sell some stocks, possibly this is a very liquid space. Because this is where the HNI, all the large ticket interest has been over the last 7 or 8 months. So I think it stands to reason that people will want to lighten up over there. So I think it is more of that playing out now. Because I think that a lot of the negatives are now in the price. So I personally think that it is not really, in fact, I think that some of these businesses are in fact better placed in terms of recovery as compared to say like a power or an infra going ahead, because I think there's a lot more uncertainty on that. So I think even when it comes to stocks, like a lot of the managements, in fact, I've heard them come on media and say that in terms of collection, things are slowly getting back to normal. I think the key question for them will be really, will they be able to grow their business the way they were prior to this demonetization event? And I think that's a question which only time will answer. So that said, I think that it's more to do with reasons like this sort of uncertainty and the overall bad news flow which has now gotten priced in. And I think any further selling from here is really because this is the space that is liquid and that can give you the exit.
If we just look at something like a Bajaj Finance, Sharmila, that's recovered irrespective of other NBFCs going up. Do you think that's a different business model? That's why that one particular name has recovered versus the sector?
Absolutely. I think that there was very little reason for this name to fall off to start with, because I just said that business model is completely different. So just I think by virtue of being in this group of stocks that had seen this run up and which sort of got labelled as NBFC or that financial sort of microfinance, lending, that kind of business, you saw that correction come into the stock. So I think obviously you would expect that stock to see a recovery before you could say in a stock like a Manappuram or a Bharat Financial or any of those kind of stocks.
Samit, you have all three buy calls which you told us earlier. Can you just tell us your outlook on Nifty? Is that it will recover or a bottom has been made?
See, honestly speaking, we were not expecting this corrective move to extend below 8,000. But yesterday we saw Nifty testing 7,900, and I mean during the day it slept below 7,900 also. Still, we would we don't want to get carried away by this momentum, as if we look at the daily and weekly chart structure, we can see cluster of supports around 7,850, 7,800. So we would believe that downside is quite limited from current level. Giving a precise bottom would be very difficult, but we don't want to get carried away by this negative movement that we have been seeing since last few days. And thus, for Nifty, we would like to wait for a certain reversal patterns that to happen on daily as well as weekly chart structure. So as far as index specific call is concerned, we would like to stay on the sidelines and we would wait for a buying reversal to happen on charts.
Vishal, some names like Tata Steel, Hindalco, as of now are showing some strength. But yesterday there was a correction into large cap metal space as well. Is it an opportunity to actually buy, or probably you see further downside as it plays a catch-up role with the markets?
I think there are some names where you can look at buying opportunity, and especially I would look at Vedanta as one of the best picks to buy, because that's on the monthly chart and the weekly chart, the pattern and the trend is still intact. So we look at around levels of around 200, 205 as a very good support, or even 200 becomes a psychological support. So where I look at Vedanta being the best pick amongst all the metal stocks, where we can look at buying opportunities at current levels.
Right. As far as Hindustan Zinc is concerned?
Yep, Hindustan Zinc, I would say, has corrected sharply in the last few days, and it has broken the important support as well as the momentum on daily charts. So I think it will take some time to consolidate at this levels around, even we can look at levels around 230 in the next few days. So 230, 235 is an important support where we can look at taking a call on Hindustan Zinc.
Right. Avinnash, any fundamental view on these metal names?
No, I think I would be more comfortable on stocks like Hindustan Zinc, because I think they have planned an expansion which is actually going to be fully commissioned in FY18. And I think the kind of numbers which came out in Q2, Pankaj, were much better than what the street expected. In fact, zinc prices have started moving globally. They've been getting better realization. So our sense is that this is a virtually debt-free business company, has got a lot of cash on the balance sheet, has seen a very good, decent amount of correction. So somebody who wants to play on the metal pack, I think Hindustan Zinc offers a better risk-reward compared to getting into something like a Vedanta or maybe a Hindalco. I would be more comfortable in looking at a 6-month horizon and then looking at a decent price.
I'll just come back to you, Avinnash. Markets have opened for the day 18 points higher, 7,926 for the Nifty, in line with what SGX was indicating. Our first pivot as per the levels was 7,924. So just in and around there for the Nifty. Sensex 25,874. Tata Steel on your screen 382. ICICI Bank 249. Tata Motors up close to 1%, and BHEL up more than 1/3%. ONGC is up 0.2 or about 35 paisa. Bharti Airtel stocks in news, but 25 blinking into actually red and green. Reliance Industries is up about ₹1 or so, and Infosys is up 0.5%. Tata Power 15 paisa higher, 73.65. Aurobindo Pharma has been a loser of late, 628, just about 4 to 5 rupees on the higher side. Cipla 558 was among the top 5 losers yesterday. Adani Ports 0.25% higher, about ₹1 higher. HDFC Limited 1223. Kotak Mahindra Bank down about 0.5%, and Ambuja Cement up close to 0.5%. Lupin went to 1460 yesterday once they got approval, then closed at 1400. In the last 10 minutes, it did see a lot of selling pressure coming in, and today it's opened with a gap up of about 1%. IndusInd Bank, 0.5% lower, 1,055. M&M up close to about 0.3% higher. Bajaj Auto 17 rupees down, and Dr. Reddy's 3,000 level, but only 1,000 shares traded as of now. Maruti up about 0.3%, 5,187. Eicher Motors up 1%, 20,444. SBI 244, about 0.35 paisa higher. Actually, no change for SBI. Volumes are also slightly on the higher side. ITC 1 rupee higher, 50,000 shares already traded, 225, 226 for ITC. Bank of Baroda 147, 148. Again, it was among the top 5 losers yesterday. Today is looking stable, at least at the start. Reliance Industries 1,049. Tata Steel up about 0.5%, 382. Power Grid, really no change at this point of time. Anisha, any names that you can pick up on the volume side, or something which is attracting a lot of volumes or price action?
Well, Pankaj, some of the real estate names are losing ground and volumes are slightly high. Trade is thin, so not very, very big volumes. But the likes of DLF down 3% now. HCL has also lost ground, about 1% lower. So some of these real estate names are in focus. On the losing end, we are seeing Tree House. Tree House is seeing some amount of pressure coming through. It was down about 8%, so now it's down about 5.5%. So that stock has been buzzing and is now seeing some amount of profit taking. We're seeing Indiabulls Real Estate also down about 0.5%. So some of the it is the real estate stocks that are facing some pressure, but some of the banks are bouncing back well. We've seen Federal Bank up about 1%. I think ICICI has also moved higher. There is one stock, State Trading Corporation of India, STC. This one's up 10%. In fact, for the last week, it's up 55%. Yesterday also it was doing very well. So this stock is seeing some action. We've got Divi's Laboratory today up about 2%, seeing some bounce back. NBCC is up 1% and Tata Motors is also up 1%. So really not big moves being seen. But we are seeing today, at least on the frontline indices, a better move. Sharmila, have you had a look at Mahindra and Mahindra? This auto company has slumped quite a bit, and what happens in rural India does affect its fortunes because of its tractor business. But do you think now it is offering a good opportunity to investors who want to capitalize on perhaps the effect of better monsoons once the cash is back in hands for everybody?
So I think there are just too many ifs and buts there, because I think the fact remains that this was definitely one of my favorite picks within the space before this entire event, simply because of I think the reasons that you said, that a strong monsoon indicates that you will see a bigger spend from I think a whole host of stocks, not just a Mahindra and Mahindra, but a whole host of stocks that would benefit from a better monsoon were stocks that we sort of recommended, and I think now that's gone sort of on a back foot. So I think the question remains on how fast you can really see recovery in this space, and I really wouldn't want to hazard a guess at this point in time. And I think it might be better to just hold off for January numbers and to hear what managements have to say in terms of what the impact has been, because I think this is not the kind of spend that you can expect. Oh, it got delayed this month, so it will go back on track next month, because you may just hold off until really the next sowing period, or whichever is are the good months for such sales to happen. So I think that it's not something that I would really want to bet on at this point in time as to how fast the tractor business will come back on track. And Mahindra & Mahindra in any case has gotten hit for a variety of reasons, because they are in that SUV space, and the kind of ruling that we saw in Delhi, and the overall concern that maybe other states would follow, etc., etc. I think a lot of negatives are in the price. I like the stock at this price, but as I said, in terms of buying it, I would just hold off until I saw the January numbers.
All right. So that's the view on M&M and avoid coming in. What do you do, Samit, with a stock like BHEL? I think L&T was one of our guests mentioned is forming a good bottoming pattern, but BHEL is looking pretty weak. What does one do? Avoid the stock or look at buying for the longer term?
See, since last 4 to 5 months, this stock has been underperforming. It corrected from higher levels of 145, 150. As of now, we don't see any reversal pattern as such on daily charts, but we would see support coming in somewhere around 115, 112. Which we are seeing as a very strong support zone. So we would wait for reversals to happen around this strong supports. If we see any kind of buying reversal around 115, 114, which has been acting as a strong support, we would rather wait for a bounce to happen. Otherwise, at current level, it would be very difficult to take any call right now. We would expect this consolidation to continue, wherein the lower end would be around 112, 114, and higher end, if bounce comes also, then 125, 128 seems to be a very strong resistance.
I just wanted to highlight some names as well. So Shilpa Medicare opened down about 6%. It's a stocks and news. Right now it's down about 2.5%. Names like DV's Lab, which have been in focus for the last few days, are trying to recover. That's Shilpa Medicare. Day's low was 650. Right now it's 674. There is a capital allocation which has happened. DV's Lab down about 30% in the last 2 days, and right now about 775. Just trying to recover about 1 to 2% higher. Cipla also went down about 4% yesterday, so it's up around 1% now. Just trying to recover, trying to see some sort of bounce back for some of these names which have clearly fallen. Avinash, any view on DV's Lab? Has market factored in the worst outcome already because of the wordings of those Form 483?
I think, Pankaj, clearly in the short term, I think whatever price correction had to happen has already happened. And I think, from the higher levels, a drop of almost 30% has incurred in a very short time. So I would presume that till, the management actually does not sound out what is the kind of earnings damage, because clearly the Form 483 which has come in is quite disturbing, because it has come on the Visakhapatnam second facility, which accounts for almost 60 to 70% of the profit. So I would believe that, earnings definitely are going to be impacted in the second half, and how quickly these are resolved, because clearly if there's an import alert, then there could be a bigger problem on their hands. But I would presume that at this price, the stock will definitely like to consolidate, and further movements in the stock price will be dependent on, what kind of news flows you got on the 483 kind of notification.
Right, but market has already factored that, Form 483 is not going to be only Form 483. It will either be a warning letter or an import alert.
It could be. I mean, if it does happen, I think my guess is, after a 30% cut, Pankaj, you won't obviously see such a large cap getting down every day, because the downside circuit for the last 2 to 3 days was quite significant and continuous. So I would believe that the market would actually like to digest this news gradually, and maybe then wait for the December quarter and then take the guidance for the Jan to March quarter, which would give a fair amount of idea that what is the kind of earnings damage from this notification.
Right. Samit, any view on DLF? It's down 2%. It was down, I think, 7-8% yesterday as well.
See, it's been correcting since last 3 days. It has broken down from its major supports of 105, 106 during yesterday's session. So we would expect this underperformance to continue, and this stock is likely to head towards 95, 93, which we are seeing as a strong support. So at least in the near term, this stock is likely to remain under pressure.
As of now, you would want to sell it, or it's in no trade zone?
See, it would be very difficult to take a fresh shorting position at current levels, since the stock has already fallen more than 10% in last 2 trading sessions. Those who have shorted at higher level, they can maintain their positions, but fresh shorting at current level would be difficult.
Right. Vishal, any view on Just Dial? Now, that's mostly we've seen selling into names which were doing well, or where there was a lot of optimism built in. But Just Dial was a stock that was down 50% before demonetization. It's down another 12-13% now.
So it's basically trend is weak on all time frames, and there is no sign of recovery or neither any momentum kind of divergence is there. So there's no point catching a falling knife and trading below its this year's low at the 52-week low. So I think there is some more room. If we look at if we have to find out supports for this stock, we say around 300, 305 would be a good support. But still, without any confirmation or our accumulation pattern, definitely would not like to get into this stock.
All right. Sharmila, you said there are too many ifs and buts with a story like M&M, so you'd avoid it. What do you do with some of the cement stocks, say an Ultratech? It's corrected quite a bit. Does it present a more compelling argument for investment, or would you avoid cement as well?
Well, honestly, there is a less of a question of an if and but, because cement is in direct correlation with your GDP. It is positively correlated, and if everything that we've heard over this last month seems to indicate that you could actually see a cut on your GDP. I think there is no reason to be immediately positive about cement. So I think I would definitely think that it's only when you perhaps closer to budget, or if you hear some kind of spend coming in for infra, road, etc. When you see a pickup in that activity, that is when you will see a sense that you need to start buying into cement again. So whether it's a Mahindra & Mahindra or whether it's a cement, if you have the stock, you hold what you have. But I wouldn't recommend any fresh purchase in either play at this point in time. Because we are just a couple of weeks away from seeing January numbers. So to my mind, it makes eminent sense to just hold off, take a holiday this week and just wait and see the numbers before you do it.
All right. Take some time off, but look at some of the stocks that can give you good returns. Avinash, have you had a look at Apollo Hospitals? This stock is now at a 52-week low. Compared to, say, a Fortis Healthcare, Fortis Healthcare is still okay. Now, these healthcare hospital-related stocks have a stable bricks and mortars business, and we don't see very wide fluctuations in their earnings. But then they don't even give you very big returns. At this price, when it's at a 52-week low, do you think Apollo Hospitals can give reasonable returns to investors?
No, I think, Anisha, first of all, these are stocks where possibly, in the short term, it's difficult for earnings growth to actually justify the kind of valuations Apollo Hospital trades at. Because according to me, on FY18 also, this stock trades at a fairly expensive multiple of almost 28, 29 times. And I would believe that, I think if somebody has a long-term view, the hospital business is definitely profitable. But the kind of investments Apollo Hospital has made and the kind of ROEs, return on capital employed it generates, I would presume that it could be at best a market performer. Fortis could be a different story because we are seeing that possibly the SRL diagnostic division is going to be demerged. There's going to be some value upside created, plus some HNIs have entered the stock. So obviously at that level, this company definitely sounds good in terms of the relative valuation compared to Apollo Hospital. But overall, I would say that the budget which is coming in the month of February could possibly give some sort of relief for the domestic hospital sector. So, somebody who has it should hold on. But Apollo Hospital is definitely not a buy at the current level.
Okay, would not recommend a buy on Apollo Hospitals. Thank you, gentlemen, and Sharmila for joining us on NDTV Profit, giving us your views on all the stocks we've discussed. Sharmila, as you go, please leave us with the disclosures.
Yes, it's fair to assume that I may have holding in some of the stocks discussed.
Avinash, your disclosures?
Yeah, I think whichever stocks we mentioned on the show today, you can safely assume that clients may be having positions. Personally, I don't have any positions in the stocks mentioned today.
Vishal, your disclosures?
No holdings in stock discussed today.
And Sameet, your disclosures?
I don't have any personal holdings in discussed stocks, but our clients might be having positions.
Thank you so much for joining us on NDTV Profit today.